SHIB happens. I mean, we used to be able to say the real word on these videos and the rules changed, which is proof of just that. All you can do is pivot, move, and make the best of it. It is a bit worse when it happens on live wrestling TV though, especially in the age of social media. If you mistakenly break that fourth wall, sheesh, it's over. And my name is Simon from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button, and this is indeed 10 wrestling matches that accidentally filmed things you weren't meant to see. Number 10, the blood and guts fall. Right, I am glad this one has come up because it still annoys me. 49-year-old Chris Jericho threw himself on the top of a massive cage in a crazy stunt, and all everyone wanted to talk about was how the landing was clearly padded. Yes, of course it was. It's wrestling, and that doesn't take away from how nuts this was. Have you ever done a bungee jump? That cord is going to pull your ass back in the air and stop you dying before you hurl yourself to the floor. But my word, it's like saying hello to death. And sure, it could have been filmed with a bit more sneakiness, and that is where the wrestling world imploded. The metal covering where Le Champion landed was clearly cardboard to protect Jericho, and because that was obvious, the risk of the stunt was ignored. It does not seem fair. I'm not saying you can't pass criticism, because of course you can, and I bet if AEW does something like this again, they will shoot it from 100 miles away, so everybody will learn. I just felt the rage aimed towards this was a little bit too much. I'll be happy if I can walk up the stairs at 50, let alone do this. Number 9, Drew McIntyre lands on a crash pad. And here we go again. This one also got to me because it just made sense. As much as the Thunderdome will always be second place to having real fans in the building, when we were there, we may as well have taken advantage of the surroundings, e.g. that we could protect the wrestlers a little bit better. Health comes first. So when Bobby Lashley grabbed Drew McIntyre to throw him over the top rope and through a table at Hell in a Cell 2021, WWE filmed it in a way where you didn't see the impact at first, because yes, some sort of crash pad had been put outside the ring, so this landing could be a little bit nicer. WWE would have gotten away with this too if it wasn't for those meddling kids, but they screwed up the timing. Because as we cut to the destroyed body of Drew, you saw a hand scrambling back under the ring. Was this more zombies? No, it was clearly someone removing this protective covering, and they got caught. It sparked off the internet once more as conspiracy theories ran amok, and of course has now been deleted from subsequent recordings. Just go and look at Drew's back for evidence of how brutal this match was, however. I'm glad for a few seconds he was allowed a soft fall. Number 8, an ominous cut reveals that Dexter LUMIS is not Ricochet. So this was just a bad edit, but man, it was kind of funny, or not really funny at all, as Dexter LUMIS was injured out the back of it. For some crazy reason though, NXT decided that a great spot in a triple threat match against Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher would be for Dexter to try and copy Ricochet and do a flip over the top rope and land on his feet. Do you know how hard this is? In your head you may think it's easy, but as a man that wrestles and has tried something as simple as a suicide dive, let me tell you that anything to the outside is terrifying. It's why you need fans to cheer you on, so you don't cower out of it. Not that surprisingly, when LUMIS tried this, he landed badly on his ankle and broke it, leaving WWE's production staff to go to work. So when we saw the match, instead of the injury, you saw this quite obvious edit of Dexter landing on his feet as if he'd executed it perfectly. No, he didn't. This was filmed after the fact and spliced together, and the only way you wouldn't have noticed is if you weren't paying attention. Number 7, Paul Turner tells Marty Scurll to go home at All In. I went to All In, and it remains one of the best professional wrestling experiences ever. The crowd was so loud it got me emotional because it just hit so hard. The sheer noise here. I suppose this also got the better of some of the performers too, especially Marty Scurll and Kazuchika Okada. It's hard to watch now due to real life happenings, but in terms of putting a match together, this riled up the audience something fierce. It was a slow burn to say the least, but both guys were able to tell a story that convinced you Marty may actually be able to beat one of the greatest IWGP champions in history. The problem was, they got so into this, they went 14 minutes over their allotted time. 14 minutes. That does seem quite unfair, all things considered, and to try and get them to hurry the hell up, referee Paul Turner was dispatched to quite literally yell, "Marty, go the flub home." You'd have to have been dead not to have heard this because it was said so loudly and was born out of frustration. We still had one match to go. The Young Bucks and friends had to fit their bout into what felt like 39 seconds and somehow did it, but yeah. Number 6, your winner and new WCW champion, David Penzer. That likely doesn't ring a bell, but if wrestling actually obeyed its own rules, then it would have been real. Let me explain. Way back in October 2000, WCW had the horrible idea to do a San Francisco 49ers match. This saw 4 boxes hanging above the ring, one of which had the World Championship in it, with the rest containing weapons that Jeff Jarrett and Booker T could use. Because World Championship Wrestling had lost the plot at this stage, said boxes were actually jokes. So in one was a sex doll, and yes, you heard that right, another a framed picture of Scott who had just been fired, and the third was a coal miner's glove, because why not take a shot at old school wrestling while we get involved with whatever this farce was. Booker and Jeff did what they could with this, but when we got to box number 4, which was clearly the title, man did it get even more dumb. Because as it fell to the mat, out of pure instinct I would think, announcer Dave Penzer grabbed the thing. The reason this was a mistake is because the rules were, whoever touched the belt and grabbed it first would be the champion. So, yeah. Thankfully, even WCW ignored this, but still, it just made the whole thing such a joke, even though Booker T especially was trying his best. Number 5, Shane McMahon's bouncy table. Another one when I scratch my bald head. What are we even complaining about sometimes? But we go back to WrestleMania 32 with this one, and when Shane McMahon and The Undertaker went at it within the confines of Hell in a Cell. It wasn't the best match as we know, but it certainly was a draw. As soon as it was announced, ticket sales increased in their thousands. You don't even need to worry about that though, because this was all about one big bump. Shane, as we know, is nuts, so did indeed climb to the top of the structure and jumped off hoping to crush the dead man. McMahon missed and went crashing through a table, and this was insane. The impact was horrible. Because we can never just enjoy things though, fans noticed that the table he landed on was basically an inflated cushion to try and keep Shane O'Mac alive. Seemed like a smart move to me, but no, we wanted him to just dive right into the floor. If we are to compare this with entry 1-2, WWE did shoot this from miles back, which proves you can't win. I don't care if he jumped into custard either, Shane must have been bricking it before he leapt. You really do never know what's going to happen with this kind of madness. Number 4, WWE goes viral. During season 3 of NXT, which was happening over here in Manchester, UK, Nikki Bella found herself wrestling AJ Lee. It was mostly what you would expect, when over the PA, all of a sudden we were told that the antivirus software had been updated. And I suppose we thought, well, thank goodness for that. This did the rounds on social media because it was so ridiculous. Why was this computer wired up to the speakers to begin with? Michael Cole was also clearly instructed to then use this incident to insult the match and said that even the public announce system is bored. And well, I could have done without that. Don't crap on your own product. If you don't care, why should I? You couldn't ignore this one though. It was literally shouted to thousands of people. Number 3, Kurt Angle prepares to blade. If you are looking for it, you can actually spy wrestlers getting ready to cut themselves. It's like knowing the secret behind a magic trick. Once you know, you know. In terms of TNA's 2011 Genesis pay-per-view though, well, there was no way you could miss it. You would have to assume the production crew was made aware of stuff like this, but if so, they just didn't care. Because as Kurt Angle wrestled Jeff Jarrett and was slammed in the head, the camera just focused on him when he had a blade in hand and was trying to cut his forehead. Honestly, you could see him fumbling with the thing. We didn't really cut away from this quickly either, so who knows what the hell was going on. It also didn't help because there were fans on hand ready to give TNA a kicking. This just made it way too easy. Number 2, WWE's trick ladders. I think by now you know my stance on this stuff, but hey, it doesn't mean these things haven't happened. And in case you don't know, and sorry to be the guy to tell you, but if there's ever a major spot we need to do with a ladder, occasionally WWE will get one made out of wood. That's why they snap so easily and why sometimes you see sawdust coming out of it after a fall. Why anyone would think anything else I don't know. And let's not forget, usually before this they are still hurling real ladders into one another like that's normal. Also, do you think going through wood is comfortable? If it was, you wouldn't have a mattress on your bed at home. This is why suspension of disbelief is so important, mind. Once you forget all of this, wrestling is far more fun. Number 1, TNA digs a literal hole. I have seen wrestlers slam through the ring a lot, and it just never gets old. It makes it look like someone just got sent to their doom. It does mean when it happens you have to be careful not to tread on the gimmick ring, something TNA did not successfully achieve at Destination X in 2010. The whole setup was bonkers as Hulk Hogan was transferring the power of Hulkamania to Abyss, who proceeded to grab the one only AJ Styles, and he hurled him to hell. The problem was Styles' feet were sticking out the thing, which made it more comedic than intended, and seconds later referee Earl Hebner tripped over when he almost fell in it. Desmond Wolfe then arrived and did the same thing, and Ric Flair deliberately threw himself through there, because I think he was trying to save the whole thing. It kind of left most people finishing up this pay-per-view by laughing away, at least I did. and I don't think I was meant to. Know of any other wrestling matches that accidentally filmed things you weren't meant to see? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and please do subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Make sure you come and say hello on social media. My name is Simon from What Culture. I appreciate you stopping by. Know that I'm hugging you in my mind, and I will talk to you on the next one.